Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be a bit of a chatty video where I just want to share my heart on our transition into middle school. You guys, I have a middle schooler this upcoming fall, and I've been contemplating that transition for a little while. I've been trying to do kind of twofold things. Like one, I want a new philosophy almost for these years, the middle school years, but I also kind of want some concrete practical like to-dos as well. So I'm going to be sharing that with you today as kind of a plan for middle school. Like, what do I want for my kiddo for these upcoming 3 years? So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel, welcome back, all the things. Like I said, we're going to be chatting about middle school. So this fall will be my 7th year homeschooling, and I have homeschooled this kiddo all the way through, from kindergarten through 5th grade, and we're starting 6th grade next year. That's kind of where I cut off middle school, is 6th, 7th, and 8th, or at least that's my plan. It's also just a natural transition in like childhood development. It feels like there's a lot of things my son is really pushing towards, and a lot of things that are kind of new for us. Like, I very much have been in the little kid years, I've been in elementary school, and now we have something new. And on one hand, it feels like it came super fast. On the other, it feels very appropriate. And so I'm excited, mostly excited, somewhat apprehensive, just because it's new. I've never homeschooled middle school. Now, I honestly don't think it's going to be that different. I feel like we're still going to have kind of our normal practices, our normal homeschool ideas and ways of doing things, but there's going to be some extra things or some different emphases that I'm going to put on these years. So let's just hop in. Let's start with, I guess, philosophy. Let's start with what I'm planning or thinking of doing. Maybe I should come back after the 3 years and let you know if this is truly where I land. But with elementary school, I say this a lot on this channel, with elementary school, I have been really focused on the foundations, like learning to read, early math, early beginning writing and handwriting and things like that, right? So just setting a solid foundation. Like, it's important to have those foundations in order to have some higher order thinking coming in middle school and high school. So I've always been focused on those academics, but additionally, delight and exposure on really the rest of the subjects, like content-based subjects. So like science and history and geography. Like, I've been really focused on delight, not so much rigor and academics. That's important, but I feel like I said, that's important more in the foundational skills. And I don't necessarily want to like change that. Like, my goal is not to be like, okay, now we're going to be so rigorous that there's no fun being had in homeschool. I don't believe in that. I just think it's good to step it up. It's good to give a little challenge. It's good to respond to my 11-and-a-half-year-old as he's kind of starting to push on things, you know, natural, good stuff, but still, again, this is the first time I've been through this. So that's elementary philosophy. Now, what I'm thinking for middle school, maybe the best way to do this is just to talk through some of the changes I think I want to make, and then some practical to-dos that go with that. Now, I feel like the first change I guess I want to make is I want to really lean into critical thinking. Like, I already feel like we do a fair amount of discussion in our homeschool because we're literature based, because we use Sonlight. So I feel like we're a number of steps up the staircase, if you will, into this idea of really wrestling with concepts and ideas. But I think as the kiddos get older, you can bring harder issues. They can be more personal issues, like personal stances, morality, things like that, that we can really discuss. But what I'm imagining, and maybe this is not going to work or this won't be true, is I feel like in these years, the kids will start to not necessarily be like, well, whatever you say, Mom, I'm just going to like parrot back what you say. I feel like they're going to have some pushback or some opinions, or they heard this from a neighbor kid, or they saw this on a TV show or whatever, and they're curious about it. And in classic child form, they might adopt that opinion just to see what would happen. A lot of times I feel like that happens, but I also think it's good to have kind of that bigger, broader approach to hard topics. To be like, yes, this is what some people believe. This is why they believe it. This is what some people believe. This is why they believe it. And to try, I guess, to shy away from a bit of a very sheltered, like, this is the only thing. Like, hold this and everything else is scary. Like, I don't want that for my kids. I want them to hold on to truth, but I want them to choose the truth. Like, especially like in faith type topics, I want them to choose it because of how it has moved in their like soul, if you will. Not choose it because that's one, what we believe, or two, we've instilled such a fear-based mentality in them that they fear everything else and they don't even want to think about it, because that happened a lot to me as I was a professor at a Christian university. Is I would have a lot of these freshmen come in that were just so fearful. Like, I was in the sciences, and so science, Christianity, sometimes that just got a little muddy. I don't think it has to. I know that's the case in a lot of families, but these kids would come in and be like, I can't hear about this stuff or I'm going to lose my faith. I'm so fearful. And it was good to have conversations at that 18-year-old level, but I feel like as we're moving into middle school, high school, like, we can start those conversations at the 11-year-old level, if you will. So that's a philosophy change, as opposed to like a delight and exposure, critical thinking and really digging into harder topics, being available, like me, my time, being available to just have conversations and see what happens. And I do want to kind of bring some intentional resources in, and I will get to that in just a second because I have a plan for that. But that's kind of a big, broad idea. And now a little bit more practical academic change is I want to move towards independence in schoolwork. I feel like it'll be a start and stop situation, because even this past year when he was in 5th grade, I needed him to be a little bit more independent with science. And I've talked about this kind of in my reviews this spring. Is I'm not sure if that totally worked, but you know what? It's okay. It didn't have to go perfectly. It was a first step in that direction. It was helped me realize that he wasn't quite learning it, and I'm not quite sure where the drop off was. Was it the reading retention? Like, it was tough to read the resources and answer the questions and the activity questions. And this example is from Sonlight Science. But I still think it was a good first start. Like, we learned some things, but I still want to move him towards independence, but with a helping hand. You know, it's like, I am here. Like, this is not a like push you over the cliff, I hope you can figure it out sort of situation. I want to pick a few subjects. Science, again, is probably going to be one of those, although we are moving into a different science, which I made a number of videos. I'll pop them up on the screen or up above, about Novari science, which is what I'm wanting for middle school for my kiddos. So I'm still working the details to see how much of that can be independent, or maybe what aspects can be independent and what aspects we have to do together. And maybe that'll change from 6th grade to 8th grade. You know what I mean? Since this is kind of a middle school transition, that's my thoughts. So a practical to-do that kind of comes out of this idea is I want my son to use a planner. Now, we've done this in the past where he's just kind of looked off of my planning sheets, but I feel like he could handle taking that a little bit more and maybe organizing when he wants to do things. So a planner, we're just going to practice planner again this year and see how that goes. He is very type A, so I anticipate that this will land with him, but we'll see. Some people just aren't planner people. But what I want, the reason I came up with the planner was because I want to do less nagging. There's a point in time when I spend a lot of time during my day saying like, did you get this done? Did you get this done? Stay focused, stay on topic, please get this done. And I think there's a time and place to loosen that leash a little bit and be like, okay, this is your assignment for the week. Yeah, I'm not going to nag you. I want you to get this done by the end of the day, and then show it to me. And maybe that will help him learn time management through failure. Probably, let's just be honest. He's probably going to suck at it at times, or he's not going to want to do it, or he's going to choose to not do it. And I struggle with a little bit of tough love. I feel like it could help us. It could help him gain a little bit more independence and pride in the fact that he can do these things without mom like constantly nagging him. So we'll see. So those were the big kind of academics, if you will, like lean into critical thinking and move towards independence and less nagging by mom. But I feel like within these years of middle school, there's also a beautiful time to continue character development, life skills, faith development, things like that, that I really want to help him develop tools and habits to take into life, right? Because the goal is not just let me educate my middle schooler. The goal is let me give him tools and let me help him find the tools that work for him as he continues his march towards adulthood, if you will, you know? But before I get to my to-do list, I feel like it's really important within this philosophy to acknowledge maybe the elephant in the room with middle school. And it's like puberty, right? Hormones. And I feel like there's a spectrum for kids. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with this kiddo or any of the kids that follow as to how they're going to go through this hormonal shifting time. But I'm sure there will be some effect. I've done some reading and I feel like where I've landed is kind of two words. like grace, the ability to give them grace, but also to lay down some expectations to help them have self-control, right? Like, so yes, sometimes big emotion days will happen. They happen to me. They happen to adults too. But it's the ability to still do what is expected of you and to have the self-control to do it. Even if you don't want to, even if you're having like an overwhelming day, the ability to either do some of it, like to have the self-control to engage and not be a victim to your hormones or your feelings and all these things. And so those are the things I've pulled out of some of my reading and research to focus on with these years. So that feels kind of more big philosophy, like acknowledging that these hormones and this time frame is coming, and how am I going to handle it instead of be blindsided and upset that my child is behaving differently than they used to. The honest part is this is very much parenting and homeschool. It's all wrapped together. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the first philosophy, I guess, under this character and life skills. But there's some more practical things. So I would like my kiddos in middle school to fully take on the responsibility of laundry, again, without nagging. Like, I anticipate the beginning of the training process to be more intensive, time intensive for me, but then to release it and allow them to maybe not do it perfectly, allow them to fail at it a bit, same kind of story. And I'm sure there might be some other big chores that will get in the mix, but that's the first one on the list. I'm actually working with my husband. We're trying to get more chores and responsibilities. I feel like these years, these preteen to teenager years, it's important to get some of these chores down pat, and I haven't done a great job of that. Like, I can set up the systems, but I've always struggled to keep pushing the chore systems. Like, I feel like if I wasn't pushing it, everything fell apart. And so I'm going to start here, and probably will trickle down to the other kids. My husband and I are kind of working on this. The other things I want to do are more on the kind of personal development. Now, I saw another homeschool mom share about this, like where she reads specific books, maybe like one a quarter, with her kiddos, allowing for these books to spark some of those discussions that might be a little bit hard to bring up. So again, my husband and I are putting together kind of a book stack to pull from for this kiddo over the course of years, right? Like, some of the ones that come to mind are like the 7 habits of like successful teens, or something like that. My husband has a book like 5 things to help make a man. I can't quite remember it. But some of those sorts of resources that we can read just together on a casual basis. We read a lot together in my family, but this would be one-on-one, like not as a group. And so I'm not quite sure logistically how that's going to work, but that's our heart kind of going forward, is to break off a bit as they start to get into these years, so we can have some of those discussions, and maybe more privately, where the 7-year-olds aren't giggling all around, you know what I mean? And additionally, kind of tied into that is faith development. So personal development, faith development. So trying to figure out some good rhythms and routines and habits for like daily devotional for my son, for him to own his faith. And I feel like these ages are perfect for picking that up and really helping that be a core foundation of who he is and who my kids are. So I want to be intentional with these important aspects of life, because life is busy. And if I don't make a plan for some of this stuff, it won't happen. And also, I realize this might not happen all right away. I'm viewing this in kind of a 3-year plan. So we'll see. And then the last thing I have on my list is to really acknowledge the fact that these years, the transition from like mom and dad being like the most important person, like they just want to be with us all the time, to switching a bit of that focus to friends, coaches, things like that. So to really allow for sports or different kinds of group gatherings, like getting into a youth group at church, which we just moved and we're going to have to find a new church, and we're going to try to pick one that has just a really healthy, hopefully healthy youth groups. And so I feel like those are some of the things that have kind of fallen out as I have been contemplating middle school, as I've been contemplating these preteen years and what I want to lean into and start building some different foundations with my kids, because the goal of those young years was beautiful and wonderful, and I still have 3 kiddos in those young years, so we're still very much there. But as my oldest is transitioning out, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to start some of this, to make these habits, to enrich our relationship, and hopefully just like serve my son. So those are my thoughts. I feel like there's probably some other things. There might have been some academics that I could have really focused on, but the academics will happen. always make those things happen because I really value education and take seriously the fact that I am educating. So those academics are going to happen. But some of this other stuff is almost more impactful for future life, adult life. You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts. I would love to hear more from you in the comments, especially if you have some middle schoolers or you've gone through this period. Even if you haven't, you can commiserate with me on this kind of apprehension, excitement, transition coming up. I would just love to hear from you guys down below. So those are some of my chatty thoughts as to where we're going. And I love it. But anyway, give the video a like if you liked it and subscribe to the channel if you want to, especially if you want to follow some middle school content. It's coming this year. So I hope you all are well. All right, guys, take care.